The American West, in the aftermath of the Civil War, was a land of boundless promise and brutal reality. For many, it was a canvas upon which to paint a new life, a fresh start away from the scars of conflict and the rigid confines of established society. The vast, undulating prairies of Kansas, stretching to the horizon like an endless sea of grass, beckoned with the allure of fertile land and untamed freedom. Settlers, pioneers, and opportunists alike streamed westward, their wagons carving dusty trails across the landscape, their dreams as expansive as the sky above them. Yet this freedom came at a cost. Isolation was a constant companion, and the vast distances between settlements fostered a reliance on the kindness of strangers, a hospitality that was often the only bulwark against the unforgiving wilderness. Among the vital arteries of this westward expansion was the Osage Trail, a dusty, well-worn path that snaked through the southeastern corner of Kansas, a lifeline connecting distant towns and offering passage to new territories. It was along this trail, in the remote and sparsely populated Labette County, that a peculiar family chose to stake their claim. They arrived in the early 1870s, seemingly from nowhere, a quartet of individuals who would soon etch their names into the darkest annals of American history. John Bender Sr., a burly, taciturn man with a thick German accent. His wife, Ma Bender, a formidable woman whose piercing gaze seemed to miss nothing. Their son, John Jr., a man of erratic moods and a nervous disposition. And their daughter, Kate, a striking young woman whose beauty was matched only by her unsettling charisma. They were, to all outward appearances, just another family seeking their fortune on the frontier, their wagon laden with the meager possessions of a new beginning. Their chosen enterprise was a modest one, yet perfectly suited to the needs of weary travelers, a small inn and general store. It was a crude structure, hastily erected from rough-hewn timber, its single room divided by a heavy canvas curtain that served as a makeshift partition. The sign, crudely painted, proclaimed it the Bender Inn, a beacon of respite in the vast emptiness of the prairie. Travelers, exhausted from their arduous journeys, would often breathe a sigh of relief upon seeing its humble silhouette against the setting sun. Here, they could find a warm meal, a place to rest their weary bones, and perhaps a moment of human connection before continuing their solitary treks. Yet, from the very beginning, there was a subtle, almost imperceptible unease that clung to the Bender Inn like the prairie dust. The family themselves were odd. John Sr. rarely spoke, his eyes often fixed on some distant point, as if perpetually lost in thought. Ma Bender, with her stern demeanor and her habit of smoking a pipe, commanded a silent authority that bordered on the unnerving. John Jr. was prone to fits of nervous laughter and sudden silences, his gaze often shifting, restless. But it was Kate who was the most unsettling. Her beauty was undeniable, her smile disarming, yet there was a coldness in her eyes, a calculating glint that belied her charming exterior. She spoke of spiritualism, of healing, of communing with the dead, drawing in some unsuspecting visitors with her mystical pronouncements. The inn itself, with its rough construction and the ever-present canvas curtain, felt less like a welcoming haven and more like a stage for some unspoken drama. Travelers, grateful for the shelter, often overlooked these peculiarities. The isolation of the frontier fostered a certain tolerance for eccentricity, and the need for hospitality outweighed any vague sense of discomfort. They would eat the Benders' simple fare, listen to Kate's pronouncements, and retire to their beds, unaware of the sinister purpose that lay hidden beneath the floorboards. The Benders, for their part, were efficient, if not overly friendly, hosts. They provided the necessities, took their payment, and watched their guests with an unsettling intensity, their eyes betraying a predatory patience. Then, the disappearances began. At first, they were isolated incidents, easily dismissed. A lone traveler, perhaps lost in the vastness of the prairie. A family, perhaps deciding to take a different route. But as the weeks turned into months, a pattern began to emerge. Travelers, often those known to be carrying money or valuables, would simply vanish after passing through the Labette County area. Their last known whereabouts often placed them somewhere along the Osage Trail, somewhere near the Bender Inn. The whispers started subtly, carried on the wind across the prairie, growing louder with each new disappearance. A vague, unspoken fear began to settle over the scattered communities, a chilling premonition that something profoundly wrong was happening in the heart of their promised land. The Bender Inn, once a symbol of frontier hospitality, was slowly, inexorably, becoming synonymous with a terrifying, unexplained void. The prairie wind, once a soothing lullaby, now carried a chilling undercurrent through Labette County. The isolated disappearances, initially dismissed as the unfortunate hazards of frontier life, had begun to coalesce into a disturbing pattern. Travelers, often those known to be carrying a significant sum of money or valuable goods, would simply vanish after passing through the vicinity of the Bender Inn. Their wagons, their horses, their very existence seemed to evaporate into the vast Kansas landscape. The local stagecoach lines, once bustling with activity, began to report a noticeable decline in passengers willing to risk the journey through that particular stretch of the Osage Trail. A palpable sense of unease, a silent dread, settled over the scattered homesteads and nascent communities. In the Passage, small, close-knit settlements, whispers began to circulate. Farmers exchanging hushed theories over fences, wives sharing anxieties during infrequent visits to the general store. The Bender Inn, once a welcome sight, was now mentioned with a subtle shiver. Did you hear about the Miller family? Gone. Just like that, after stopping at the Benders, one might say, their voice barely above a murmur. And young Thomas, who was headed to independence with his savings, never seen again after he passed through that way. No one dared to openly accuse, for fear of retribution, or simply because the evidence was circumstantial, a collection of unsettling coincidences. But the collective consciousness of the community, though spread thin across the vast prairie, was beginning to connect the dots, forming a grim picture of inexplicable loss. The Bender family, meanwhile, seemed oblivious to the growing suspicion, or perhaps they simply didn't care. Their behavior, already peculiar, grew increasingly unsettling. Ma Bender, with her unyielding stare and her ever-present pipe, seemed to dominate the household, her commands sharp and final. John Sr. remained a silent, almost spectral presence, his eyes often fixed on some unseen point beyond the horizon, as if contemplating dark secrets. John Jr., prone to fits of nervous laughter and sudden, unsettling silences, would sometimes burst into erratic rages, only to retreat into a sullen quiet. But it was Kate, the youngest, who drew the most attention. Her striking beauty and her claims of spiritualism, of being able to commune with the dead and heal the sick, were a strange lure. She would hold seances in the crude inn, her voice a low, hypnotic murmur, promising solace and answers to the desperate. Some travelers, seeking comfort or a glimpse into the unknown, were drawn to her, only to disappear like all the others. Her charm was a deceptive veil, masking a cold, calculating mind. Early attempts at investigation were met with frustration and dead ends. Concerned relatives of the missing, often traveling great distances, would arrive in the area, desperate for answers. They would inquire at the Bender Inn, only to be met with plausible denials and feigned ignorance. The Benders were masters of deflection, their stories rehearsed, their alibis seemingly airtight. "No, we haven't seen anyone matching that description," Ma Bender would declare, her voice flat. "Many pass through here, stranger. The prairie is a dangerous place." Without official authority, without concrete evidence, these desperate inquiries withered, leaving behind only more questions and a deepening sense of helplessness. The vastness of the frontier, the lack of established law enforcement, and the transient nature of many travelers played directly into the Benders' hands, allowing them to operate with a chilling impunity. The isolation of the crimes was a key factor in their success. A traveler alone on the trail was an easy target. There were no witnesses, no immediate alarms. The Bender Inn served as the perfect choke point, the last known location for so many who simply vanished. The heavy canvas curtain, a seemingly innocuous partition, became a symbol of the unseen horrors that transpired within. The Bender's reclusive nature, once seen as mere eccentricity, now took on a more sinister meaning. They were a self-contained unit, a family operating outside the norms of society, their lives shrouded in a deliberate obscurity that made them both fascinating and terrifying. As the list of missing persons grew, so too did the community's fear. The whispers turned into hushed conversations, then into urgent discussions. People began to avoid the Osage Trail, choosing longer, more arduous routes to bypass the ominous presence of the Bender Inn. The fear was not just for oneself, but for loved ones, for anyone who might unknowingly fall prey to the unseen menace lurking on the prairie. The Benders, though still unaccused in any official capacity, had become a dark legend, a chilling embodiment of the dangers that lay hidden beneath the promise of the American West. The wind, once carrying whispers, now seemed to howl with the unspoken dread of a community, slowly realizing the true horror that had taken root in their midst. The Bender Inn, a crude single-room structure on the desolate Kansas prairie, was more than just a roadside stop. It was a meticulously designed death trap, a stage set for unspeakable horrors. The interior was deceptively simple. A long, rough-hewn table dominated the main space, surrounded by a few rickety chairs. A small, perpetually smoking stove offered meager warmth. But the most crucial and chilling feature was the heavy canvas curtain that bisected the room, ostensibly to provide a modicum of privacy for the family's living quarters. This curtain, however, served a far more sinister purpose. Behind it, strategically placed, was a large, crudely cut trapdoor in the floor, leading directly into a shallow, earthen cellar. And beside the trapdoor, always within easy reach, lay a heavy, blunt hammer, its head worn smooth from repeated brutal use. The entire setup was designed with a chilling efficiency. A traveler, invited to sit at the table with their back to the curtain, would be positioned perfectly for the swift, silent blow that would end their journey. The Benders' method of luring their victims was as simple as it was effective, preying on the inherent trust and desperation of frontier travelers. They offered the most basic of human needs: food, lodging, and a brief respite from the harsh realities of the trail. John Sr. and Ma Bender would greet weary travelers with a gruff, almost reluctant hospitality, the sore by our faces unreadable. John Jr. would hover, his nervous energy a constant unsettling presence. But it was Kate, with her striking looks and her practiced charm, who often sealed the victim's fate. She would engage them in conversation, her voice a soft murmur, her eyes holding a deceptive warmth. She spoke of spiritualism, of her ability to connect with the departed, offering solace to those who had lost loved ones on the unforgiving frontier. Some, lonely and vulnerable, would seek her counsel, drawn in by her promises of healing and insight. Others simply sought a warm meal and a safe place to sleep, unaware that they had stumbled into a spider's web, and the spiders were very much at home. The ritual of the kill was chilling in its methodical precision. Once a traveler was seated at the table, their back to the canvas curtain, the Benders would spring into action. Often it was John Sr. or John Jr. who would deliver the initial blow, a crushing strike to the head with the hammer, designed to incapacitate instantly. Before the victim could even register the pain, before a sound could escape their lips, Ma Bender or Kate would swiftly move in, slitting the throat to ensure a quick, silent death. The heavy canvas curtain, designed to absorb any sound and conceal the gruesome act, would then be pulled back, revealing the trapdoor. The body, still warm, would be unceremoniously dropped into the shallow cellar below, joining the growing collection of the Benders' forgotten victims. The entire process was executed with a practiced efficiency, a chilling testament to the family's repeated, unpunished atrocities. The family dynamic within the Bender household was a terrifying study in shared psychosis. Ma Bender, with her iron will and her unyielding gaze, appeared to be the undisputed leader, the orchestrator of their macabre enterprise. Her commands were rarely questioned, her authority absolute. Kate, her daughter, was the manipulative charmer, the siren who lured unsuspecting travelers to their doom. Her spiritualist seances were not just a means of attracting victims, but a psychological weapon, disarming their suspicions and making them vulnerable. John Sr., the patriarch, was a figure of quiet menace, his silence more unnerving than any threat. He was the enforcer, the one who delivered the fatal blow, his stoic demeanor masking a brutal efficiency. And John Jr., the most outwardly erratic of the group, was the volatile element, his nervous energy and unpredictable outbursts serving as a distraction, perhaps even a form of psychological torture for their victims. They operated as a cohesive, terrifying unit, each member playing a distinct, horrifying role in their shared enterprise of murder and plunder. There was no dissent, no apparent moral qualms, only a chilling dedication to their gruesome craft. The Benders' meticulousness in ensuring no witnesses survived was paramount to their continued success. Any traveler who entered their inn and sat at that fateful table was destined to disappear. They left no survivors, no one to tell the tale of the hammer, the knife, and the trapdoor. This absolute lack of witnesses, combined with the vast, unpoliced expanse of the Kansas frontier, allowed them to operate with a chilling impunity for years. The bodies, once in the cellar, would be stripped of valuables, then buried under the cover of darkness in the apple orchard behind the inn, their graves shallow and easily concealed. The prairie, with its endless horizons and its silent secrets, swallowed them whole. The Bender Inn, a beacon of false hope, continued its grim business, its unsettling hospitality a prelude to a terrifying final silence. The whispers on the wind had grown into a chilling chorus, a collective unease that settled over Labette County like a shroud. The disappearances, once isolated incidents, were now undeniably linked, forming a grim tapestry of vanishing travelers. Yet, despite the mounting suspicion, no one dared to directly confront the Benders. Fear, a potent and paralyzing force, held the scattered community in its grip. The vastness of the prairie, the isolation of the homesteads, and the lingering sense of lawlessness that permeated the frontier created an environment where such dark deeds could flourish unchecked. It would take an outsider, a man driven by personal loss and an unyielding resolve, to finally pierce the veil of silence. That man was Colonel A.M. York. A prominent citizen from Independence, Missouri, and a veteran of the Civil War, York was a man of methodical habits and an iron will. His brother, Colonel William York, had vanished after setting out for Fort Scott, his last known stop being the Bender Inn. Unlike the other missing persons, William York was a man of considerable standing, and his disappearance could not be easily dismissed. Colonel A.M. York arrived in Labette County not with a posse, but with a quiet determination, his grief a cold, sharp blade that cut through the frontier's casual indifference. He had heard the rumors, the hushed warnings about the Benders, but he was a man who believed in facts, not folklore. His visit to the Bender Inn was a masterclass in unsettling encounters. The air inside the crude structure was thick with the smell of stale grease and something else, something indefinable that prickled at the back of York's throat. John Sr. and Ma Bender greeted him with their usual stoic silence, their eyes unreadable. John Jr. fidgeted nervously, his gaze darting about the room. Kate, however, was a different matter. She attempted to arm him, her voice a soft purr, her eyes attempting to disarm him with their deceptive warmth. She offered him a meal, a place to rest, and even a spiritual reading, promising to connect him with his lost brother. York, a man of logic and reason, politely declined her offers, his senses on high alert. He noted the heavy canvas curtain, the way the Benders positioned him with his back to it, the subtle shifts in their demeanor when he pressed them about his brother's whereabouts. Their answers were evasive, their stories contradictory, and their feigned ignorance too perfect. He left the inn with a profound sense of unease, a cold certainty that he had just stood in the presence of something deeply, fundamentally wrong. York's suspicions, though unconfirmed, resonated deeply with the growing unease among the locals. His reputation, his military bearing, and his unwavering determination lent a new weight to the circulating rumors. The Benders, once merely subjects of whispered speculation, now became the direct focus of suspicion. Farmers who had previously dismissed the disappearances as unfortunate accidents now recalled strange occurrences. The Benders' refusal to sell them milk, their strange habit of burying their refuse at night, the almost unnatural silence that surrounded their property. The fear that had kept people silent began to transform into a simmering anger, a collective desire for answers and justice. Word of Colonel York's visit and his findings spread quickly through the scattered community. A meeting was called, not in a saloon or a general store, but in the local schoolhouse, a neutral ground where fear could be confronted with collective resolve. Men and women from miles around gathered, their faces grim, their voices low. Colonel York presented his findings, his methodical observations, his unwavering conviction that the Benders were involved. One by one, others came forward, sharing their own unsettling encounters, their own lost loved ones, their own long-held suspicions. The dam of silence had broken. The Benders were openly accused, their names spoken aloud with a mixture of fear and righteous indignation. The community, finally united by a shared horror, decided to act. A search party would be formed, and the Bender property would be thoroughly investigated. The Benders, isolated though they were not entirely oblivious to the shifting tide of suspicion. The sudden cessation of travelers along the Osage Trail, the increasingly pointed questions from the few who still dared to approach, and perhaps even a stray comment overheard from a passing wagon, signaled to them that their time was running out. Their strange behavior became even more pronounced. They began to sell off their meager livestock, their faces grim, their movements hurried. The crude inn, once a facade of hospitality, now felt like a place preparing for abandonment. They were making preparations for flight, their actions betraying a desperate urgency. The net was closing, and the Benders, the silent, unsettling family of the prairie, knew it. The search was intensifying, and the horrifying truth was about to be unearthed. The decision had been made. The collective fear that had paralyzed Labette County for months had finally coalesced into a potent force of action. A search party, comprised of determined citizens and a few local law enforcement officials, set out for the Bender property. The air was thick with a grim resolve, a mixture of dread and a desperate hope for answers. They rode in a tight formation, their eyes scanning the familiar prairie landscape, now imbued with a sinister aura. The sun, usually a comforting presence, seemed to cast long, unsettling shadows, and the wind, once a carrier of whispers, now felt like a harbinger of grim revelations. As they approached the Bender Inn, an eerie silence descended upon the search party. The usual faint sounds of life, the distant lowing of cattle, the rustle of leaves, the occasional bark of a dog, were conspicuously absent. The inn, usually a beacon of sorts on the desolate trail, stood stark and uninviting, its windows like vacant eyes staring out at the empty prairie. There was no smoke curling from the chimney, no movement in the yard, no sign of the Benders themselves. It was deserted. The realization hit them with a chilling force. The Benders were gone. They had fled, confirming the darkest suspicions that had plagued the community. A wave of frustrated anger rippled through the group. They had been too slow, too hesitant. The monsters had slipped through their fingers, but the immediate priority shifted from capture to discovery. The search party dismounted, their boots crunching on the dry earth, their faces grim. They fanned out, meticulously combing the property, their senses on high alert. The crude general store was empty, its shelves bare. The small, neglected garden was overgrown, its plants wilting. The air, though devoid of human presence, seemed to hum with a lingering malevolence, a testament to the dark deeds that had transpired there. As they moved towards the inn itself, a foul odor began to assault their senses. It was a sickly sweet, cloying smell, unmistakable and deeply unsettling. The stench of decay. It seemed to emanate from beneath the inn, growing stronger with every step. The men exchanged uneasy glances, their initial anger now replaced by a cold dread. They entered the inn, their eyes immediately drawn to the heavy canvas curtain that divided the single room. It hung limp and lifeless, a silent witness to countless horrors. One of the men, a burly farmer named William, reached out a trembling hand and pullers led it aside. What they saw sent a collective gasp of horror through the group. Beneath the spot where the table would have been, a section of the floorboards was loose, crudely disguised, but now undeniably visible. It was a trapdoor. A wave of nausea swept over several of the men as the true, horrifying purpose of the inn began to dawn on them. This was no ordinary inn. It was a carefully constructed killing ground. With a grunt of effort, William and another man pried open the trapdoor. A gust of the putrid air from below billowed out, forcing them to recoil, their hands instinctively covering their mouths and noses. The sight that met their eyes in the shallow earthen cellar was a scene from a nightmare. Dried blood stained the dirt floor, dark and viscous. A few scattered bones, fragments of clothing, and the unmistakable glint of a discarded knife lay amidst the grime. The tools of their gruesome trade were laid bare. The discovery of the cellar, however, was only the beginning. The stench led them outside, to the seemingly innocuous apple orchard behind the inn. The ground there, though covered by sparse grass, seemed disturbed, unnaturally soft in places. With shovels and picks, they began to dig. The first body they unearthed was that of Colonel William York, the very man Colonel A.M. York had come to find. His body was crudely buried, his skull crushed, his throat slit. The sight was a brutal confirmation of their worst fears, a horrifying testament to the Benders' depravity. Colonel A.M. York, who had maintained a stoic composure throughout the grim investigation, knelt beside his brother's shallow grave, his face etched with a grief so profound it seemed to age him decades in an instant. But the discoveries did not stop there. As they continued to dig, more bodies emerged from the earth, one after another, a macabre harvest from the fertile Kansas soil. Men, women, and even a child. Each body bore the same brutal marks: a crushed skull, a slit throat. The sheer number of victims was staggering, far exceeding anything they had imagined. This was not an isolated incident, not a few desperate acts of violence. This was a systematic, calculated pattern of murder, a chilling enterprise of death and plunder. The Bender Inn, once a symbol of frontier hospitality, was now revealed to be a mass grave, a silent monument to unspeakable evil. The promise of the prairie had been stained with blood, and the shadow of the inn would forever loom large in the dark history of America. The apple orchard behind the Bender Inn, once a symbol of rustic charm, had been transformed into a gruesome excavation site. The initial discovery of Colonel William York's body had been a shock, a brutal confirmation of the community's darkest fears. But as the shovels bit deeper into the soft earth, the true, horrifying scale of the Benders' atrocities began to emerge. One by one, bodies were unearthed, each discovery sending a fresh wave of revulsion through the grim-faced men of the search party. The air grew heavy with the stench of decay, a sickening perfume that clung to their clothes and permeated their very souls. It was a field of the dead, a macabre harvest sown by the hands of a family who had masqueraded as innkeepers. The process of exhumation was slow, painstaking, and emotionally draining. Each body was carefully lifted from its shallow grave, its silent story screaming of violence and betrayal. There were men, women, and even a young girl, their faces often disfigured by the brutal blows that had ended their lives. The sheer number was staggering. Initial estimates quickly climbed from a few to a dozen, then more, with some speculating that the true count might never be known. The Benders had been prolific, their victims disappearing without a trace, swallowed by the vastness of the prairie and the chilling efficiency of their methods. The realization that so many had met their end in such a brutal fashion, so close to what appeared to be a welcoming home, was almost unbearable. Identifying the victims became a heartbreaking task. Some were recognized by their clothing, a distinctive button, a worn boot. Others by personal effects found buried with them a locket, a pocket watch, a faded photograph. The stories of those who had vanished, once whispered rumors, now took on a tragic reality. There was the German immigrant heading west with his life savings, the young couple on their way to start a new farm, the traveling salesman with his samples and his dreams. Each identification brought a fresh wave of grief and outrage, a stark reminder of the human cost of the Benders' depravity. The community, once fragmented by fear, was now united in its horror and its desperate need for justice. The methods of murder employed by the Benders were revealed in gruesome detail. The consistent pattern on each body spoke volumes, a crushing blow to the head, delivered with immense force, followed by a swift, precise cut to the throat. The hammer, found discarded in the cellar, was the instrument of the initial incapacitation, its blunt force ensuring silence. The knife, its blade still stained, was for the final, fatal act. The Benders had perfected their technique, ensuring a quick, silent death, minimizing struggle and maximizing their chances of remaining undetected. The trapdoor, the cellar, the shallow graves in the orchard, every element of their operation was designed for efficiency and concealment. They were not impulsive killers, they were calculating predators, their actions driven by a cold, insatiable greed. The news of the discoveries sprouts like wildfire, carried by telegraph and newspaper across Kansas and beyond. The story of the Bloody Benders, as they were quickly dubbed, ignited a firestorm of outrage and horror. From the bustling cities of the East to the remote outposts of the West, people recoiled in disbelief and disgust. The image of the seemingly innocuous inn, harboring such unspeakable evil, became a chilling symbol of the dangers that lurked beneath the veneer of frontier life. The Benders became infamous overnight, their names synonymous with a new, terrifying breed of criminal, the serial killer. The frontier, once romanticized as a land of opportunity and adventure, was now seen through a darker lens, its vastness capable of concealing not just dreams, but nightmares. The Bender Inn itself, now a gruesome crime scene, stood as a silent, chilling testament to their crimes. Every creaking floorboard, every stained surface, every shadow seemed to whisper of the horrors it had witnessed. It was no longer just a building. It was a monument to human depravity, a place where hospitality had been a cruel deception, and trust had been met with a hammer blow. The Field of the Dead, the apple orchard, became a pilgrimage site for the morbidly curious, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the depths of human evil. The unraveling was complete, but the scars left by the Bender family would forever mar the landscape of the American West, a grim chapter etched into the very soil of Kansas. The discovery of the bodies in the apple orchard behind the Bender Inn sent shockwaves far beyond the quiet confines of Labette County. What began as a local search for missing persons quickly escalated into a national sensation, a chilling expose of depravity that defied the very notion of frontier hospitality. As more graves were unearthed, the grim reality of the Benders' enterprise became horrifying. Clear. This was not the work of desperate outlaws or impulsive killers. This was the systematic, cold-blooded operation of a family unit, united in their pursuit of murder and plunder. The sheer volume of victims and the chilling consistency of their demise painted a picture of calculated evil that was almost impossible to comprehend. The initial exhumations revealed a pattern that was as efficient as it was brutal. Each victim, regardless of age or gender, bore the same telltale signs of their final moments. The primary method of murder was a crushing blow to the head, delivered with immense force, likely by a blunt instrument such as a hammer. This blow was designed to incapacitate instantly, to silence any scream, to prevent any struggle. The Benders were masters of their craft, ensuring that their victims were rendered helpless before the final, horrifying act. The precision of these blows suggested a practiced hand, a chilling familiarity with the anatomy of death. It was a testament to their repeated atrocities, a grim efficiency born of experience. Following the incapacitating blow, the victims' throats were slit. This secondary act, often performed by Ma Bender or Kate, ensured a swift and silent death, minimizing blood splatter and further guaranteeing the victim's demise. The combination of the blunt force trauma and the sharp, fatal cut was a signature of the Bender family, a gruesome calling card that marked their victims. The shallow graves in the orchard, often no more than a few feet deep, were a testament to the Benders' haste and their chilling confidence that their crimes would remain undiscovered in the vast, unpoliced wilderness of the Kansas frontier. The bodies were stripped of their valuables, money, watches, jewelry, anything that could be pawned or sold, before being unceremoniously dumped into the earth. This was not just murder, it was a a macabre enterprise built on the blood and despair of unsuspecting travelers. The range of victims was also deeply disturbing. Men, women, and even a young child were found in the orchard. This indiscriminate targeting highlighted the Benders' utter lack of empathy or moral compass. Anyone who passed through their inn, anyone who possessed something they desired, was a potential victim. The stories of these lost souls began to emerge as identifications were made. There was the German immigrant heading west with his life savings, hoping to build a new life. There was the young couple full of dreams of a homestead on the prairie. There was the traveling salesman with his samples and his aspirations. Each discovery brought a fresh wave of grief and outrage, a stark reminder of the human cost of the Benders' depravity. The community, once fragmented by fear, was now united in its horror and its desperate need for justice. The Bender Inn itself, now a gruesome crime scene, offered further chilling insights into their methods. The infamous trapdoor, hidden beneath the floorboards, was a testament to their meticulous planning. Victims, seated at the table with their backs to the canvas curtain, would be perfectly positioned for the fatal blow. The curtain, seemingly a simple partition, served as a crucial element in their scheme, muffling sounds and concealing the brutal acts from any potential witnesses. The cellar beneath, a shallow pit of blood and grime, was the initial holding place for the bodies before their final burial in the orchard. Every element of the inn, every seemingly innocuous detail, was designed to facilitate their murderous enterprise. The sheer audacity of their crimes, committed openly in a public establishment, was almost as shocking as the murders themselves. The Benders had operated for years, preying on the very trust and hospitality that were cornerstones of frontier life. They had turned the promise of the American West into a nightmare, transforming a symbol of hope into a monument of fear. The apple orchard, once a place of potential bounty, became a chilling symbol of death, its trees silently witnessing the atrocities committed beneath their branches. The gruesome extent of the murders revealed a family utterly devoid of humanity, their actions driven by a cold, insatiable greed that knew no bounds. The story of the Bloody Benders was not just a tale of murder. It was a profound exploration of the darkest corners of the human soul, a chilling reminder that evil can wear the most unassuming of faces, and that even in the most open of landscapes, the most terrifying secrets can lie buried just beneath the surface. The grim discoveries in the apple orchard of the Bender Inn ignited a firestorm of outrage that swept across Kansas and beyond. The news, carried by telegraph and newspaper, spread with astonishing speed, transforming a local tragedy into a national sensation. The image of the seemingly hospitable inn, a beacon of false hope on the desolate prairie, now stood as a chilling monument to unspeakable evil. The sheer brutality of the crimes, coupled with the calculated deception of the Bender family, shocked the sensibilities of a nation still grappling with the raw wounds of the Civil War. This was not the random violence of a desperate outlaw. This was a systematic, cold-blooded enterprise of murder carried out by a family unit, a concept so abhorrent it defied comprehension. Public outcry was immediate and intense. Newspapers, both local and national, ran sensationalized headlines, detailing the gruesome findings and painting vivid, often exaggerated portraits of the Bender family as monsters in human form. The story tapped into a primal fear, the vulnerability of travelers in a vast, untamed land, and the chilling realization that evil could wear the most unassuming of faces. The Benders became a household name, synonymous with depravity and betrayal. Communities across the frontier, already wary of strangers, became even more suspicious, their trust shattered by the horrifying revelations from Labette County. The very notion of frontier hospitality, a cornerstone of survival in the West, was irrevocably tainted. For the residents of Labette County, the outrage was deeply personal. These were their neighbors, their friends, their fellow pioneers who had vanished without a trace, only to be found in shallow graves behind a roadside inn. The grief was palpable, but it was quickly overshadowed by a burning desire for justice. The initial search party, exhausted but resolute, quickly transformed into a determined posse. Men from all walks of life, farmers, merchants, lawmen, volunteered, their faces grim, their eyes alight with a shared purpose, to hunt down the Benders and make them pay for their heinous crimes. The local authorities, overwhelmed by the scale of the atrocity and the public's demand for action, offered a substantial reward for the Benders' capture, dead or alive. This bounty further fueled the manhunt, drawing in bounty hunters and adventurers from across the region. The Bender Inn, now a macabre tourist attraction, became a focal point for the public's morbid curiosity. People flocked to the site, eager to witness the scene of such unspeakable horrors. Souvenir hunters picked through the remnants of the inn, carrying away pieces of wood or stone as grim mementos. The apple orchard, once a place of natural beauty, was now known simply as the Field of the Dead, a chilling testament to the Benders' gruesome harvest. The very air seemed to hum with the lingering presence of their victims, a silent accusation against the family who had so cruelly betrayed the trust of those who sought shelter. As the posse prepared for their pursuit, the details of the Benders' hasty flight began to emerge. They had vanished just days before the discovery, their sudden departure a clear indication that they knew the net was closing. They had sold off their livestock, abandoned their possessions, and simply disappeared into the vastness of the prairie. The trail was fresh, but the Benders were cunning, and the frontier was a formidable ally. The immediate aftermath was a chaotic mix of grief, outrage, and a desperate, unyielding resolve to bring the perpetrators to justice. The story of the Bloody Benders had just begun its chilling journey into the annals of American true crime, and the hunt for America's first serial killer family was officially on. The prairie, once a symbol of hope, now held a dark secret, and the nation watched, horrified and fascinated, as the pursuit unfolded, drama played out against the backdrop of the untamed West. The Bender family, once a peculiar but seemingly harmless fixture on the Kansas prairie, had transformed overnight into the most hunted fugitives in America. The discovery of the bodies in their apple orchard ignited a manhunt of unprecedented scale, fueled by public outrage and a substantial reward. Posses, both official and unofficial, scoured the vast, untamed landscape, their determination matched only by the Benders' uncanny ability to vanish without a trace. The sheer audacity of their crimes, coupled with their chilling disappearance, cemented their place in the annals of American true crime, a mystery that continues to baffle and fascinate to this day. The initial pursuit was frantic and widespread. Law enforcement agencies, still nascent in the frontier territories, coordinated with local militias and citizen posses. Every road, every trail, every river crossing was watched. Telegrams flashed across the nation, describing the four members of the Bender family: the stoic John Sr., the domineering Ma, the erratic John Jr., and he alluring Kate. The reward for their capture, a staggering sum for the time, drew in bounty hunters and adventurers from far and wide, each hoping to claim the prize and the notoriety that came with it. Yet, despite the overwhelming force brought to bear, the Benders remained elusive, their trail growing colder with each passing day. Numerous alleged sightings of the Benders emerged from across the country, each sparking a fresh wave of hope and renewed pursuit, only to end in disappointment. They were reportedly seen in Texas, in New Mexico, in the Dakotas, even as far north as Canada. Each lead, no matter how tenuous, was investigated, consuming vast resources and leading to countless dead ends. Some claim to have seen Ma Bender, her pipe still clenched between her teeth, or Kate, her beauty still captivating despite the grim reputation that preceded her. These sightings, often fueled by hysteria and the desire for the reward, only added to the mystique surrounding the family, transforming them into almost mythical figures of evil. The theories surrounding their escape were as varied and numerous as the alleged sightings. One popular theory suggested that the Benders had split up, believing that traveling separately would make them harder to track. John Sr. and Ma Bender, with their older appearance, might have sought refuge in German-speaking communities, blending in with new immigrants. John Jr. and Kate, younger and more adaptable, could have easily assumed new identities, perhaps even marrying into unsuspecting families. The vastness of the American West, with its endless opportunities for reinvention and its sparse population, provided ample hiding places for those cunning enough to exploit them. Another theory posited that the Benders had received assistance in their escape. Perhaps a sympathetic relative, a fellow criminal, or even someone they had blackmailed had provided them with resources, fresh horses, or a safe passage out of Kansas. The idea that they could have vanished so completely without some form of external aid was difficult for many to accept. Some even speculated that they had been lynched by vigilantes, their bodies secretly disposed of to avoid further sensationalism, a grim form of frontier justice that was not uncommon in those lawless times. This theory, while offering a sense of closure, lacked any concrete evidence to support it. Perhaps the most enduring theory, and certainly the most unsettling, was that the Benders had simply melted into the vast tapestry of American society, disappearing into the anonymity of a rapidly expanding nation. They were, after all, a family of seemingly ordinary people who had committed extraordinary atrocities. Their ability to blend in, to appear unremarkable, was a key component of their success as serial killers. It was entirely plausible that they had simply changed their names, adopted new lives, and lived out their days in quiet obscurity, their past crimes forever buried beneath layers of deception. This thought was particularly chilling, suggesting that the monsters could be anyone, anywhere, hiding in plain sight. Despite the relentless efforts of law enforcement and the public, the Bender family was never officially apprehended or brought to justice. The manhunt eventually faded, replaced by a lingering sense of frustration and an enduring mystery. The reward money went unclaimed, a testament to their successful evasion. The story of the Bloody Benders became a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows of the American frontier, and the chilling reality that some villains simply disappear, their ultimate fate forever shrouded in the mists of time. Their legacy was not one of capture and punishment, but of an unsettling, unresolved silence, a testament to the enduring power of their macabre legend. The tale of the Bloody Benders, America's first serial killer family, remains one of the most chilling and enduring mysteries in the annals of true crime. From their unassuming inn on the Kansas prairie, they orchestrated a reign of terror, preying on unsuspecting travelers with a cold, calculated efficiency that still sends shivers down the spine. Their story is a grim reminder that even in the vast open expanse of the American frontier, unspeakable darkness can lurk just beneath the surface of everyday life. It is a narrative woven with threads of deception, brutality, and a profound sense of unease, a testament to the depths of human depravity. What is it about the Bender story that continues to captivate audiences, even nearly a century and a half later? Perhaps it is the sheer audacity of their crimes, committed openly in a public establishment, a betrayal of the very notion of hospitality. Perhaps it is the psychological horror of a family unit, seemingly ordinary, yet united in their pursuit of murder and plunder. Or perhaps it is the enduring mystery of their ultimate fate. Despite the most extensive manhunt of its time, the Benders vanished without a trace, their disappearance as enigmatic as their crimes. Were they caught and lynched by vigilantes, their bodies secretly disposed of? Did they die of disease or starvation in the wilderness? Or did they, as many believe, successfully blend into society under new identities, living out their days in quiet obscurity, their monstrous past forever buried? These unanswered questions are what truly cement the Bender legend in our collective consciousness. The lack of a definitive conclusion, the absence of justice served, leaves a lingering sense of unresolved tension. It forces us to confront the unsettling possibility that some villains simply disappear, their ultimate fate forever shrouded in the mists of time. The story of the Bloody Benders is not just a historical account. It is a profound exploration of the darkest corners of the human soul, a chilling reminder that evil can wear the most unassuming of faces, and that even in the most open of landscapes, the most terrifying secrets can lie buried just beneath the surface. The tale of the Bloody Benders is a chilling reminder that even in the vast open expanse of the American frontier, unspeakable darkness can lurk just beneath the surface of everyday life. Their story, a grim chapter in our history, continues to echo with unanswered questions and a profound sense of unease. If the shadows of the past intrigue you, if you find yourself drawn to the macabre and the mysterious, then join us as we continue to unearth the veiled chapters of history. At Veiled Chapters, we delve deep into the forgotten tales, the unsolved crimes, and the chilling events that shaped our world. Don't let these stories fade into obscurity. Subscribe to Veiled Chapters now and hit the notification bell so you never miss an unsettling revelation. Leave a comment below and tell us, what aspect of the Bender family's story do you find most disturbing? Or perhaps, what other historical true crime do you believe deserves our attention? Share this video with fellow enthusiasts of dark history and true crime. The more we share, the more these grim narratives resonate. Your engagement helps us continue to turn the pages of history, bringing these chilling narratives to life. Until our next journey into the past, remember, some secrets refuse to stay buried. Thank you for watching.